Don't Call Me Strong retreat has been an absolute inspiration. I have learned so much from so many of the practitioners that have been here today. I feel inspired. I feel encouraged.
Sense of belonging today. Each and every one of us can be heard and have the tools to go and navigate life was very special for me.
I've gained a lot of knowledge and understanding of how I should continue to be not only a caregiver, but also to learn to take care of myself.
They've helped me to reflect on some things that I've kind of pushed in the back. I've learned a lot from them. I realize I'm not the only one.
I now have language for some of the experiences that I've had in my life.
I'm so grateful I was able to make it to this seminar.
So I've really just thoroughly enjoyed being able to come to the first one and just get to experience what all of these providers have put together.
I'm so grateful to Galloway Counseling Services for putting this retreat on. I will be at the next one without a doubt.
All right. We're live.
Yes.
We're live.
Yes.
Welcome back to the Power Lab, everybody who is watching. So my name is Montina Myers-Galloway. I am the owner of Myers-Galloway Counseling. I am the creator of the Responsible One newsletter, and I also created an amazing membership community called Legacy Shifters. And this is where we help Black women reclaim their time, their voice, their emotional freedom, so that they can finally live their own life without the guilt. And so this is the Power Lab, and I called this space the Power Lab because it is a space for practical, ongoing work, exploration, reflection, where Black women leaders can experiment with real life strategies to protect their peace, prevent burnout in leadership and in life. Because you can get burnout not just at work, but in your life as well. And so just like a lab, this is a place about testing what works for you, no pressure. This is a place to be open and vulnerable about what you are experiencing. And so today we have some amazing guests. You all probably saw that amazing intro video that we did. We had a retreat last year called Don't Call Me Strong, and our guests today blessed us with their presence. We are so grateful for them. So we're going to start off with having them introduce themselves, and then we'll go into our topic for the day.
So yes, thank you again. And the Don't Call Me Strong event, just seeing the video brought me back. The event was like breathtaking and amazing. So I am Whitney. I am the co-founder of Raising Resilience Counseling. Tiffany is our other co-founder and therapist. And so we came into this space as we began working with children when we first became like newbie therapists in this. And so like working with children, you get to see the whole dynamics of the whole family. And so with me and Tiffany working with children, we really enjoyed the work. But one of the things that came out of that work is you see that every family does not look the same. So you have grandparents stepping into the guardian role, aunts, uncles, cousins, older siblings stepping into this role of like caring for this child, not only their physical and financial needs, but their emotional needs. And so when me and Tiffany saw that, we were like, hey, there needs to be a space for people that are raising little people? Like, what does that space look like? Who's kind of listening to them at night after they've got like 20 calls from the school, or we're coming out to the house to talk to them about the child's behavior? And we began to learn more about their story. And so me and Tiffany was like, there needs to be a space where we are talking about maternal mental health, because a lot of people would say, I'm in this guardian role, but I too myself lost a child, or I too had children, and I'm doing this for a second round. So me and Tiffany took some trainings in maternal mental health when we were figuring it out. Tiffany had just had her daughter, so she was in the thick of it. Like, girl, I'm trying to figure this out. We didn't learn this in grad school. They barely touched on postpartum depression. And we're just like, what is this? So that created the space of Raising Resilience. So Raising Resilience came out of us just trying to find a space for people that were trying to push through this parenting thing, and also parent themselves, because parenting also means you are parenting yourself, your own parents, and the people around you. And so like, we was like, what does that space look like? That created Raising Resilience. We started as a nonprofit, just doing postpartum support groups on the west side of Charlotte, where women could walk, come into the groups, get what they need, grab a bite to eat, and just talk about the emotional things of how they're showing up for themselves. And it had such a great turnout. And so that's when we made our own career pivot and experienced our own burnout, is being like at this agency that we loved. But it was also like, okay, what's our pivot? What will prevent me from getting burnt out in the work that we're doing? And that birthed Raising Resilience as our private practice, where we serve women all across the lifespan when it comes to maternal mental health, those that want to conceive, those that are conceiving, those that are postpartum, parenting, relationships, navigating work, breastfeeding. All of those things impact you as you're bringing life into this world, or even trying, or just being even undecided, and everything that goes into that. So that's how Raising Resilience was birthed.
And you described a lot of competing stages and phases that women are going through, leaders are going through. And so it's really important. And quite honestly, I believe we've been in maybe the industry around the same amount of time. And I remember referring clients to you all because you were one of the few Black maternal providers in the area, and I've gotten nothing but great feedback ever since referring clients to y'all. But let's get into what we want to talk about today. And so I named this video series the Power Lab after my signature framework, right? So it's designed to be a space where Black women leaders can test and apply 5 core parts of what I call the Power Blueprint. And so the aspects of this Power Blueprint is building people-centered support networks, practicing optimized emotional mastery, creating wellness for real lives, right? Because we all see what's on Instagram and what we should be doing, but we got to make sure it matches to our real life. And we should be in pursuing empowerment for purpose and committing to restorative action planning. So self-care, of course, but things that restore where we're depleted, because that's essentially what's at the core of giving and serving and leading. So let's jump into it. What do you think when you see the women in your life who are constantly caring for others? Who do you see that's caring for them, and are they even caring for themselves?
I think it's something they have to unlearn, because I do think when you are caring for everyone else, and that even personally, professionally, even myself and the women I see, it's something they have to unlearn, of learning that, okay, what does it look like to say no, that you can't take this parent or this grandparent to this doctor's appointment at 9 a.m. on Thursday? Like, what does it look like to say, hey, I could go over there and help, but I don't feel like it. What does it even look like? Prioritizing.
Like I could,
Yeah.
but I don't really have to.
And that is so hard. Like, like we think about it in the moment, like I could, but I can't. And I see them restricted to this thing of like, but I can't, because if I don't, nobody else will.
Hear it all the time.
And I kind of look through that dynamic of like, okay, if you don't, then nobody else will. Who's around you in that circle, or who's not, or what's going on? Or like I always tell my clients, you're going to sometimes have to pay for some extra help to make your life more easier. And yes, we are always taught, well, don't pay for no one to clean your house, or don't pay for someone to pick your kids up, or don't pay for this transportation services to get this parent or this family member to where they need to be. But
Right.
think about, that's an hour and a half or 2 hours of your time you've gotten back into your life where you literally could sit in silence. You feel like, I am literally not feeling depleted. I'm not showing up angry. I'm not showing up disheveled. I'm not irritated. Yes, it's paying for a service that you're like, okay, but think about that time that you've gotten back. So it's always this thing, even in childhood, feeling like you always got to be busy. And if you're not busy,
Right.
and
For
you
sure.
can't be productive if you're resting or you're not. So I think it's unlearning the things that we were taught, because at one point we had to work nonstop. But
Right.
like, when you're caring for everyone else, I find it very hard for a lot of women in turn to also implement, if I'm caring for everyone else, where do I fit? And they're usually that
Yeah.
tiny little dot in the middle and everybody else.
At
And
the bottom of the list.
yes. And so what does that look like? And I always tell even my family members and my clients that work with, that you're never going to find harmony in caring for everybody else and then also
Right.
prioritizing you. You have to
Right.
pick what that looks like. And some days you can show up for everybody, but some days that's going to be you saying, hey, y'all, not today.
Not.
I need my time. So it's unlearning some of the things, and that guilt of feeling like why you can't be there for someone. It's always that feeling of guilt or even trauma. You know, when someone
Yeah.
can show up for you, will show up in these ways of, I would do this because somebody didn't do it for me. And so, like, also sometimes it's just like wanting to do for others what someone didn't do for you. Like when you explore just that
Hmm.
trauma of trying to meet those needs of someone, even when someone's like, "Oh, I got it, I'm good."
Hmm.
Um,
Hmm.
that feeling of, "I
And it
got it,
for
I'm."
sure, it for sure shows up as overcompensating. So that's definitely
Yeah.
what I see. So for everybody listening, my private practice is focused on helping Black women heal from parentification, and that's
Yes.
essentially early unintentional caregiving. And so overcompensating is literally at the top of the list, along with
Mhm.
perfectionism and
Mhm.
overfunctioning. But Whitney, what if I could have a service provider for every area of my life?
Me
I
too.
would do that. I want a house manager. I want a meal prep person. I want every service to be a
Me too.
part of it. And it's not, coming from a place of like entitlement or privilege or whatever, but it's coming from a place, if I had the space, the full space to truly show up in my life and be present with the people that I love and not be pulled in all these 1,000 different directions. I want that. And that's honestly my goal. So let's talk about how you think the pressure to quote unquote be strong
Mhm.
has shaped how the Black mothers that you've worked with and you've kind of gotten along this process. How do you think
Mhm.
that shapes their experience with asking for help, showing vulnerability, and resting, like truly resting?
Mhm. I think it puts I think I would say it puts a shade or mask over it. And one of the things that me and Tiffany tell all of our clients, strong is not a strategy. When we ask our clients when they come into that space, and I ask them, what are your current coping skills? What are you doing? And the first thing is like, I'm trying to be strong because I gotta be a good mom. Um,
Hmm.
and tying this sense of like being strong and not wanting to say, hey, do you mind literally giving me an hour to shower and to make a phone call, even 30 minutes? Do you mind doing it? Because if I do that, they're going to think this or they're going to think that. So I do think societal norms have really pressed, especially with Black women, that you have to
Yeah.
be all knowing, all doing, and don't rest. And if you do, then it's judgment around you being this good mother. And I like to always break down with my clients. I know Tiffany does this too. What is a good mother? And the first thing they think is,
Right.
and strength does not equal a good mother. A good mother
Absolutely.
equals how you showing up for yourself. Where are you compensating? Where can you decompensate in certain areas? Where's your vulnerability? And how do you ask for help? I think one of the biggest things is like we think it's so simple to ask for help, especially in motherhood or being a caregiver. But when you really break down with people, sometimes even my own mom, I'll ask her like, "Why'd you do that? You could have asked. We would have helped." And that it always comes up, well, I've asked before in the past and I've
Mm-hmm.
gotten this response, or people have made me feel like a burden, or people have said, oh, well, why can't you do it? And a lot of times that sense of vulnerability and this idea of strength means that it's all on you. You do
Yeah.
it all. And if you ask for help, it means you're weak. But asking for help and support does not mean you're weak. But you have to unlearn that. That takes work, that takes practice. And it also means changing out the people in your life. If every time you ask for help and support from a partner, from a family member, from a friend in that sense, and you are feeling this sense of like, oh, well, they never show up for me, or I feel like a burden,
Mm-hmm.
you have to work on, like, are they setting a boundary with me and prioritizing themselves, or do they not value showing up for me? What is going on? Or do you act at the last minute in crisis? For a lot of our moms, it is chaotic by the time they ask for help and support, and it does not come out in a way that even sounds thoroughly like, huh? Like, you need what? And people are like, well, I didn't know. I didn't. And then it's
Right,
like, oh,
right.
now I'm feeling the shame. Now I'm feeling the guilt. Like, even with health stuff, like I'll ask some of my clients, and even my friends, like, how you doing health wise? How are you eating? Oh, I barely ate. Well, I didn't want to burden somebody or stop this person. All of those things are like, I don't wanna, and those I don't wanna's have you suffering in silence. So I definitely think the biggest thing is that strength is this thing that we see as this pride, and from this place of like pride and like don't ask, but it's like not asking, you're suffering in silence. And sometimes it don't take asking somebody, it may be like we said, okay, what are some things in my area that I could use to drop my grocery off because I don't feel like getting out of my bed today.
Mm-hmm.
I don't feel like,
Mm-hmm.
what's some things
Mm-hmm.
I can do? It doesn't always have to be the person. I tell my clients, start with something that is not connected to you, that you don't have to
Yeah.
worry about the repercussions, the actions of it. So I definitely think this thing that we've been taught, that strength is a sense of resilience, but strength is not a strategy. It's actually very, very harmful.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So I was, it's funny that you say about the whole groceries things. I was talking to the women in Legacy Shifters last night,
Mm-hmm.
and ironically, the title was A Caregiver's Relationship to Money. And I told them, I
Yes.
said, look, y'all don't want to see my DoorDash confirmation email. Like, y'all don't want to see the DoorDash or the Uber Eats receipt,
Yes.
because if I don't have to take an extra step these days,
Yes.
right now I'm focused on like convenience and what's going to be less stress.
Yes.
And that's not a long-term strategy, because that can cost you, but I'm trying to
Mm-hmm.
lean into convenience and less steps. But it
Yes.
looks like your other, hold on, let's see, your other half is here.
Yeah.
Welcome to the stage, Tiffany. We were actually just um, wrapping up a question around, how you all have seen Black mothers experience asking for help and showing vulnerability.
hmm
But I want to make sure that you get the opportunity to introduce yourself to the audience that is watching, and then we'll kind of move on with the rest of our conversation.
Okay, perfect. Hi, everyone. I am Tiffany Bishop. I am a maternal mental health therapist, and I am the other half of Raising Resilience. I am also a mom of two, so I know this journey and this path very well due to my own personal experiences. And we've been doing this work for a really long time that has given us the opportunity to see the gaps that need to be filled when it comes to Black women, Black moms, and just how we show up for ourselves in the midst of always showing up for other people.
And Whitney was telling me earlier that you all started off working with kids, and I don't think I realized that. I thought it was always maternal mental health, but that's good to know, because I'm a tap into y'all. So let's talk about, what do you all say to the mom who is praised, right, for always holding everything down, having literally hands in every pot, but she quietly feels invisible, overwhelmed, alone, and resentful?
For that, one of the things me and Tiffany always say is, just because you do it well, and this is a question I ask my clients and like anybody in my circle, what is one thing you do well that you don't enjoy? And so like especially when I ask my clients that, they're like, oh, well, like I hate getting up early in the morning. I hate having to be asked what's for dinner. I hate being asked, like, hey,
Lord.
did you do that? When, like, and they will list it out. And they're like, Whitney, I feel so bad. Like, that I even feel that way. Like, I hate when my kids can't find their socks and the socks is right there. And I have to then come in and help you find these two little socks that, like all of these things are like, even for one of my clients always lets me share. She was like, conversations with my mom in the evenings just be too much. She was like,
Right.
like I don't have the capacity, and that's still my mom. So like I asked them, like, she was like, but she just loves my advice and I can be there for her and I can all these things. She was like, but my kids is tearing the back seat up of my car up, and my husband is calling, and my mom's just chatting away. And she was like, I know we just, and we talk about that. And we talk about, why do you show up so well in those spaces? But other people don't know that you don't enjoy it. And so one of the things that me and Tiffany is, we try to let moms know it's okay to not enjoy all parts of motherhood. No matter how you came into motherhood, whether it is the 2 or 3 miscarriages before, the IVF, whether you don't even have children, you don't have to enjoy all parts of it. And you can delegate tasks around it, and you can say, this is one part I don't enjoy, and I choose not to show up in this part today. And this is where I need help and support, because sometimes you can get real lost in that invisibility of like, I have to do all of this. And if I say I don't like it, then I'll be judged. But like telling your partner, like, hey, simply, that question you asking me about what's for dinner or did you go to the store is triggering me right now. And that is not what I want on my plate, is completely fine. Because then they know. Because sometimes people ask things of us because we do them well, because they think we enjoy them, or because we get it done, but they don't know that it may be triggering, or it's uncomfortable, or it brings up a sense of rage. Like I've had a lot of clients that are like, that question, no matter what it is, brings up a sense of rage, or this sense of like, I just, but I don't want to say it because I don't want to feel like, So I think me and Tiffany always say, you don't have to enjoy all parts. And if the parts you don't enjoy, what are strategies and skills we can use to delegate it, change it, sort it out, and that you don't have to like it. It doesn't change who you are as a mom, or who you are as a partner, or who you are as a mom, daughter, or whatever. You don't have to like all parts, and let's find a way to change it around.
When what I heard you saying in that is honestly being mindful of our capacity, and having the courage to sort of control your capacity instead of letting everybody else control what you do. It can take courage to say, no, I don't want to do that.
And not have to answer why.
And I don't know if it was a client that I had or somebody else that I was talking to, but essentially adults tell, but children over-explain. Like, you don't have to over-explain, justify why you make certain decisions.
Yeah. And I think too, a part of that is, just because you can doesn't mean that you should. Right? Like, yes, you can do all the things. You can plan the dinner, you can go to the grocery store, right? Like we can do a lot of things, but it just doesn't mean that we have to. And I think there's this like discrepancy between recognizing that, like, I mean, I can do it, but really a lot of times I ask my clients, like, but at what cost?
At what cost? Yeah. And I also heard you all say earlier, like, but I bring so much value to this, or they need me. The need to be needed can often is that shade that impacts how we view our capacity. So let's talk about what you all have seen are some of the main things that stops Black women from setting boundaries or making themselves a priority in their own life.
Yeah. I think probably the main thing is not knowing how to. Right? You think about how often have we been taught to set boundaries, right? Like our inner voice is that of our parents or our caregivers, whoever we grew up with, right? Sometimes there's this in the Black household, this concept of like, you do as you're told, I don't need your opinion, right? Like I told you what to do and you need to do it, right? And so that kind of becomes our inner voice. We kind of attach that to this like people pleasing type of situation of
Mhm.
I don't know the skills to be able to set boundaries because no one ever taught me that. And I think sometimes it kind of goes over our head that childhood is the time when we need to be able to teach these children how to set boundaries so that when they grow up, they don't fall into these patterns of just lack of boundaries, doing all the things because I have to do it because somebody said that I need to.
For sure. And it shows
Mhm.
up at work. Like,
Yes.
we don't often see work as a place where we can say, you know what, I have this and this and this in priority.
Mhm.
I can't do it all. Like, which one will take precedence? Like, even just inserting the fact that there is a limit on our capacity is
Mhm.
really important. So let's talk about the shift, right? Let's talk about maybe some success stories that you all have seen when a Black woman actually chooses herself and maybe feels guilty a little bit at first, but that guilt starts to wean.
Mhm.
Let's talk about what that looks like and also how your upcoming event, Nurture and Bloom, can support that.
Mm-hmm. So I think what it looks like is one, not the absence of guilt. I talk a lot about, you're feeling things because you're not a robot, you're a human. And we
Mhm.
experience the array of emotions. And that doesn't mean that they're wrong, even if they are uncomfortable. But they do give us insight in like what's like an unmet need. Something's going on, something is new here. And that's why we're having these uncomfortable feelings. And so I think what it looks like is you start to take inventory of like, dang, I stood up for myself, I prioritized myself, but that still didn't feel good, right? And recognizing that doing what's best for you is not going to always feel good. And
Yeah.
then the more you do it, the better you get at it, and the less
Mhm.
guilty you'll feel, right? But there still might be
Mhm.
a little like, dang, I could have picked him up from daycare today,
Mhm.
but that ain't my problem, right?
Right.
Start to like go through these different points of you start to talk to yourself a little bit faster. You start to reframe those thoughts a little bit faster. And
Mhm.
with Nurture and Bloom, we're trying to create this space where you really don't have to all the mental load that we carry throughout motherhood or just womanhood, because I feel like innately women are taught to be nurturers. And the meaning of that kind of gets skewed. We see nurture to do
Mhm.
it. You have to do all the things. You have to care for all the people. And it's like, well, what if we like shift that definition of what it means to nurture, and also within that prioritize that you first have to nurture
Have
yourself before you
mhm.
start nurturing anybody else.
That's
And
true.
so with Nurture and Bloom, we want to create this space where we are like giving you real life examples of what it looks like to nurture yourself in real time. Now, you're not going to
Mhm.
have like this catered lunch all the time every day, right? You're not going to have this
Listen.
flower bar where you're making your own bouquets every day, right? But it's
Yeah.
still the practice of I deserve this,
Mhm.
when
Mhm.
I'm allowing myself to be nurtured and to be held, and allowing my community, whether it's people that I know, whether
Mhm.
it's systems like the Harris Teeter pickup, when I allow them to hold space for me, in what ways do I show up in alignment with who I want to be, the mother that I want to be, the woman that
Mhm.
I want to be, the wife, the partner, whoever it is, right? That you want to be when you allow other people or other things to pour into you and not just drain and deplete you.
Yeah. That can I say
Mhm.
that a little bit too? Oh, I want to piggyback on what you
Mhm.
said. Like, it's a 2-day event because me and Tiff are always like, what events can we do to get women and caregivers and guardians out into a space where they don't have to do nothing but show up and be and get what they need? And so, like,
Yeah.
day one, we were like, people often forget to connect with their bodies. We kind of see our bodies as like this head and then this body, but our bodies and brains are so interconnected. One's always telling the other. So that day one was centered around like, Tiff was like, we need to find a way to help women reconnect and feel within them bodies, in their bodies. Because a lot of women, especially when you are a caregiver or a new mom, you feel so disconnected from your body. You just
Uh-huh.
feel like it's this vessel that's carried this child, or that even trauma, how trauma shows up in our body. Like I have
And
so
I
many.
was gonna say, depending on what your story is, you might be at war with your body. It's a
Yes,
lot of stuff going on.
Yeah.
yes, and not paying attention to your breathing. One of the things I always tell my clients and even myself, pay attention to how you breathing. And me and Tiff was like, this gives women day one on May 9th, gives women a way to reconnect with their bodies, but also take that time to stop, pause, and reset. Because if you really ask some
Mhm.
people, we don't stop, pause, and reset until we're dog tired laying down at night. And then day two was like, come out and understand what it means to bloom. One of the things I always do with my clients is I tell them, treat yourselves how you would treat a plant. Your soil
Yeah.
is what you're trying to heal. It's ever evolving. You're always trying it. You have to nurture it. You got to water it. Sometimes it's going to be a little dry and you don't know what's going on. That stem is what you
Mhm.
bring to the table. Like, what are those things that you are trying to accept and learn? And what blooms is what you've put into it. And you have to learn how to nurture that. Like, okay, what do I need less of? What do I need more of? What's just not working? What do I need to cut off? But what do I need to gain more
Mhm.
boundaries in? Because cutoffs aren't boundaries. That's just lack.
Mhm.
Right.
And so me and Tiff really talked, because Raising Resilience started as like, our logo was a little sunflower. And we're just like, oh, we like sunflowers. And then
That's right.
sunflowers. So me and Tiff was like, nurture and bloom not only starts with like what we want people to understand about what it means to bloom and grow, but also like where we start. But
Mm.
me and Tiff
Mhm.
have grown in order to even get to this place, to even show women how to nurture and bloom ourselves. Like, we're even growing in this space of like planning this event and learning our
Absolutely.
boundaries and means and like what works. So like definitely what Tiff said of like how you're showing up, changing the narrative of nurturing, because it's so
Yeah.
important. Because it don't mean just to be nice to everybody and make everybody else happy. That's not nurturing.
Mhm.
That's just
Because
being
resentment
Mhm.
builds when you do that. And then you're
yes.
just walking around,
Mhm.
in a nasty mood, and it's because you're holding in that resentment. And a lot of times, we don't know how to accept other people's boundaries, right? Like we get really
Mm-hmm.
offended.
Yeah.
That's the indicator that we ourselves
You
are not.
don't got none. You don't
Yeah.
got none.
Yeah. Yes. Because if you would be able to see, like, oh, okay, they setting the boundary. I'm gonna fall back. They setting the
Yeah.
boundary. I
Right.
have
Like
every
I
right
got
to do
it.
Mm-hmm.
that.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. Well, I know that Nurture and Bloom is going to bless some women who really need it, and I am so excited to just kind of see where it goes and see the impact of it. So, what is one lasting thing that you would like to leave with the overwhelmed woman that is watching this, the woman who essentially, like, we stepped on her toes today? What is it that you want to leave with her?
That's a good question. Go ahead, Whitney. You got something? I'll
I
go
would
after.
say this. It takes practice.
Yeah.
Um, and that's one thing I had to learn for myself. It's like, yeah, some days you're gonna show up all over the place and you are gonna easy to slip back, but it takes practice and it takes patience. And
Yeah.
it takes accountability. And it also takes you being able to understand what this shift requires, because it's not going to happen overnight. It's not just you. We've been taught through societal norms, through, like Tiff said, through our caregivers, our parents. But like, if you want to make that shift, you're going to have to make yourself uncomfortable. It's not going to feel good. It's not always going to feel reciprocated, because everybody around
Mhm.
making the shift with you as you prioritize yourself. It can feel lonely and isolating. So it's not this beautiful, I'm a fairy, lollipops and unicorns kind of ride. It really takes you taking a step back and being accountable with you and understanding, like, what do I need? And that can be uncomfortable. And so I say in
Mhm.
that, have patience with yourself, give yourself grace of why you're here, but also grace in the essence of, I got to make a shift. I got to make a change if I want to be here for myself, but not only the people around me that I care about. So be patient and graceful with yourself. And it's not a one shot road. It has twists and turns and navigates
Mhm.
and falls back. And sometimes you're going to feel like it's not even worth it, because everybody around me making me feel worse than I did about saying that I need time for myself. And you don't need
Mhm.
to rest. I tell everybody, you don't need permission to rest. You don't need to work hard to rest. You don't need to be productive to rest. You don't need to do anything to allow yourself to rest and prioritize you. There's no amount of work, it's no permission or anything in that sense, but it's okay. Like, give yourself grace and patience through this journey.
Mm-hmm.
I was going to say
Mm-hmm.
that grace, and compassion, right, for yourself of
Mhm.
this journey is not linear, and you didn't get here by doing something wrong,
Mhm.
right? Like,
Yeah.
definitely this is just narratives and patterns that have been perpetuated through societal views, right? So
Mhm.
Yep.
this is not
Yep.
something, a lot of people are like, well, how did I get here, right? Like, how did I get to this point where I'm not prioritizing myself? And it's
Mhm.
not you. This is what we've been saying about Nurture and Bloom is like, it's an ode to motherhood, but not the one that has been handed to us. Not the one
Mhm.
where society says, like, you do all these things, you're the mom, you carry the mental load, right? Like,
Mhm.
this, it's really the motherhood that's our birthright, to be able to show up
Mm-hmm.
soft.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so that's what I would leave with your audience.
Awesome. I have really enjoyed this conversation. I cannot wait to go to Nurture and Bloom. Um, Please, audience, like, subscribe, and share. This is going to go live on YouTube, LinkedIn, and Facebook.
Okay.
And so I can't wait to see how this event turns out. And hopefully, y'all will come back.
Of
Yes,
course.
I love to come back. And thank you for being a panelist at Nurture and Bloom to bring this to our stage as well. We love what you're doing.
Absolutely. Absolutely. All right, guys. We will see you next week in the Power Lab.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.